I'm Kelly Lucas. I'm an artist, painter, and co-founder of The Parallel.
My name is Justin Munoz, aka Become. I am a 3D artist, programmer, designer, developer, photographer, filmmaker, music producer. Co-founder of The Parallel,
Yeah.
along with this one.
I've been painting forever, for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I was always making stuff with whatever was around.
Oh, I mean, as a kid, you're always doing things creative. I think it's just those moments that stick out to you as something you're going to remember. I think when I was in, it's funny now, when I was in sixth grade, I think sixth grade, I found some spray paint my mother had like lying around the house, some gold spray paint and some red spray paint, and I found a piece of wood. And I found some masking tape, and I like made like a J, graffiti J with like an exclamation point. And with like dual tone red with gold, and I made that. My mother had no idea what it was. She's not, but yeah, and that was like the first thing I think I was like really proud that I made, like with my hands and artistically. Yeah, and then that was the first thing.
The Parallel is, it's an experience. It's an art experience where the viewer gets to experience their favorite artist's work in the physical realm as well as in another universe.
So the Parallel is a concept that we came up with that introduces artists to a digital platform where they can create infinitely. So from that, they create these 3D pieces, and together we create a world and an experience for viewers, and then we throw events that have the guests see physical work on the walls, paintings, or whatever it is, and then they step into VR or soon to be AR and get to experience these artists' work in another dimension. And again, it's called The Parallel because it's not only takes place in an alternate dimension, but it's also the fact that their physical work and then their digital work kind of run in parallel to each other, but don't really, one's not meant to be better than the other. They're just kind of coinciding in a way, So that's The Parallel. Just trying to push the bar a little bit.
So Justin and I have known each other for a while through the creative industry. We ran into each other at our friend Bianca's art exhibit where I was looking for a charger and he was there as a photographer. And
I'm always there.
Yeah, we got lost in a conversation about like expanding the mind of creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately, like,
Yeah.
he just took me to a place that I've never been to before, and I wanted to stay.
My office, that's where I took her. I physically took her to my office. She's never been there. But then I put her into another dimension in virtual reality and allowed her to paint on another plane.
His office is like the shuttle to space.
It is,
So he put me to space for the first time to paint, where I was able to paint around myself and go past each brush stroke, and see the layering and expand it and then shrink it down and
Painting
paint
in
with
thin
light.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And then I kept scheduling with him like every weekend for a few weeks in a row to continue to do that. And we're like, let's do something.
And then we came across this event space, Bushwick Generator, and there's different ways to use the space and for an event. And then next thing you know, we're planning our event and bringing artists into 3D and creating, and made a 3D art exhibit, a VR art exhibit with a bunch of artists. And that was the first of many.
Yeah. The first show happened at the Bush Regenerator, and it was so influential. I think that first one that like
Yeah.
now we created the parallel and are in business together and are making a series of events with it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. Oh. That's a hard one because I think I've been involved in every technology since early web, early animation on web, going into 3D and going into early virtual reality when most people hadn't even imagined it. I was getting like basically beta versions of headsets from different brands, just trying to like open it up and see what we can do with it. Yeah, it's wow. I don't even know how many years. I can't even. It's a tough one, but yeah, I think we came in at the right time though. At the right time when the VR technology we're using allows people to not only, because the one level of VR is just being able to spin in a circle, but then the next level of VR is being able to walk around in a space, and I think that depth and that ability to go in and go further than just a circle is really important for the art that we're creating in there, So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think at that time when we met, I had already been having these sort of VR parties where they bring artists to come by and they would just paint, and everybody would sit in a circle and watch one artist paint, and on the screen they'd be able to see what they're painting and seeing through their eyes. I'd already been doing that with a lot of artists, and I knew in the back of my mind that it would be possible to take that artwork out and create something larger with it, but I didn't think I put two and two together until we met. And we tried to think of something bigger, especially to use the space that we had gotten and try and do something fine art, because it's one thing to create, but it's another thing to create something fine art and an experience and not just, oh, here's an art piece somebody made. You know what I mean? It's got to be something bigger, So I think once we met, it kind of, the pieces started to fall in together.
Yeah. The idea was like, how can we put artists who are already celebrated as artists and people are familiar with their work and want to see their work, but how can we help them expand on their work and help them utilize all the new technology that we are blessed with today? With a specialist like Justin who knows each and every area of how to expand that creativity. You know what I mean?
And I think also, to answer his other question, I had already been creating 3D spaces, but I had nowhere to put them. Even though they exist virtually, I had nowhere to display them, or there was a lot I could do, but I didn't have the platform. You know what I mean? I think to create a world is one thing, but what are you putting in this world? And I think meeting her, using her work, and meeting these artists and using their new work that I've helped them make, or showed them how to create in this world, I think that gave me a reason to have my part of it, which was create a world, put the art in. You know what I mean? I gave them if that makes sense.
I come across this conversation a lot where people, a lot of people don't realize the importance of the artist in history and artwork in general, where it's used and utilized to make people feel something they haven't felt before, see something differently they haven't seen before, understand something a completely different way. And now that we have a new medium to use, we can literally teleport somebody somewhere else for them to see a whole different perspective, or them to just forget being themselves in this world right now and be somewhere completely different. And it's startling the type of impact that we're able to give people with this. Like, what is I've always had this question, like, there's so much that you can call art. What do you think, what can you call a good, effective piece of art? And I think that's anything that makes you feel something. And the feeling that comes from being in virtual reality is insane in itself. Now, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to teach? What are you going to show? So, yeah.
And I think also, I think as a strictly digital artist, I think there's been a lot of struggle in the fine art world for digital art to be considered fine art. You know what I mean? And I think all of the new things that digital art is doing, going from, illustrations to video to animation, and then starting to add another dimension to it with 3D art, 3D film, and then now being able to bring people in and perceive 3D things as something physical. I think they just keep pushing it further and further and further. And I think there's no way we can't consider it fine art at this point. You know what I mean? Because it's going from experience, it takes many different disciplines to get one piece done. It's not just, hey, we make a 3D thing. No, you got to learn code, lighting, you know what I mean? Lighting, animation, timelines, like film. It's almost like filmmaking. There's so many different things that go into just generating one piece. Like
it's not even just the design. It's like you have to figure out and literally invent a way to make that design possible. You have to code everything.
It's not just imagine it. The process to create it is the same thing a fine artist would have to go through to create a really elaborate piece. It's just so much. You know what I mean? And it's been a lot. And I think now, I think it is fine art no matter how you look at it. And I think we just want to bring that to the forefront. We just want to push the envelope, essentially,
We had a specific experience.
Which one?
There was a gallery that wasn't sure if they wanted to
you're saying from that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Virtual reality in an exhibit at their gallery because they wanted to stay kind of with the beat idea. And they're very in with the beat community, and they're classic and romanticized about, classic art forms. So that was really interesting, even though the artist that we were working with for it is a very, very well-known, celebrated artist, OG, older man. But you know what? That was interesting to us. So
yeah, we got turned away.
But that was good because that gives us a bar to push. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to be a Picasso if there isn't some sort of barrier you have to break through? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I mean, on the other end of things too, the artists that we brought into VR, just their first initial reaction to getting into VR is like, oh my God, this is a dream. This is everything I imagined. This is I can't imagine not painting like this from now on. I don't want to paint anymore. I want to do 3D work for the rest of my life. Like, their minds are just blown to the point where it's like, I can create on an unimaginable medium. So like, what the artists are saying versus what the purists in the art world are saying really conflict. Two different things. And I think I can't wait for these purists to see what these artists are creating conceptually, visually, emotionally. You know what I mean? Like, there's no denying what they're about to experience in this world. You know what I mean? So, excited.
Stoked. I think for one, there's a completely different model for it because gallerists want to know how to sell it, and it's not sellable.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it a little bit interesting, but
Yeah, I mean, we've been approaching it from the, pop-up museum model where, charge tickets and, it's fair, and we're showing physical work, we're showing the experience of the digital work, and people walk out of there having gone on a trip, you know what I mean, into this artist's mind, so it's definitely an experiential thing more than it is just, an art gallery and trying to sell the piece, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think for the fans of the artist, it gives them a whole other, way to get into that artist's mind and understand them, or hopefully understand them, because it's got to get trippy in there.
I think we just put great artists in, and they make things happily and thankfully and have the greatest time, and we go from there. If a gallerist doesn't understand it, they don't have to do it, but they'll eventually see it and see the artists that are in there and be super impressed and blown away and say, I was just teleported somewhere and I don't even know where I went, but it was mind-blowing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're dealing with known artists that, are known in the industry. I mean, it's whatever that artist comes out with is going to be popular. So as long as we're on that realm, I think we're okay.
Yeah, and the work that they make in there, like, it's gonna be insane.
Yeah, let's speak for itself.
Yeah.
I think our first show, we chose 6 artists. So our first experience was all cylinders. Our first experience, we got 6 of the best artists we knew. We brought them all in. They all created entirely different experiences. And I developed worlds that really fit their pieces. And we gave people the baddest show we could put together in 30 days, because we only had 30 days to pull it off. And we did pretty good. I mean, it lives on. We keep showing it, and people love it, and they're mind blown. But yeah, our first one was kind of us kicking down the door. Had to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You did it well. We're talking to some people about doing public installations where we can. I don't know how much I want to give away, but public installations would be nice. So it's not only exclusive to the art world and everyone who knows about it, but we want the public to be moved. We want to, blow everybody's mind. We want to open people up to all the new opportunities for creativity and,
Yeah.
escape, if I could use that word.
And I think also, I mean, we have quite a list of artists right now we're working with on individual projects in VR, and I think each one brings an entirely different experience to the table. They're like night and day. Every single piece is just, I think it's going to be interesting. Every show you have coming up is going to be completely different from the last. I think people, their first, because of media and because of how VR was introduced to the public, I think people's first thought is video games when it comes to VR. And for us to use this platform to create fine art, I think my first thought was to remove the remotes from this scenario, because the moment people get into VR, they're looking at their hands because they have these things in their hands. And then there's a learning curve of just trying to figure out what buttons do. And then they're like, okay, what can I touch? What can I play with? Because they're just thinking games. But the moment you remove the remotes from the scenario, I think it's more of like, okay, what's happening around me? And you're kind of a ghost in this world. I mean, you literally have no body. It's just about what you're experiencing. But yeah, I think it's been my way of bridging the gap between video games with VR and, fine art, is to literally not make it a game. It's not a game. It's about experiencing something. I think the funny thing is, I started in the early stages of VR before video games got a hold of it. You know what I mean? And in the beginning, it was just experiential. It was like, this is a space and you feel like you're here, and the movement, if your body's being pulled in VR, you feel like you're moving. I think that was the early stages of it, was the experiences when it was in its purest. And then video games, obviously, because everybody wants to, interact. And I think that need for interaction, that need for control, poured its way into VR. But now we're kind of taking it back a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's more about what's happening to you as opposed to what you're causing to happen, or what's happening around you, or what's this piece you're supposed to focus on, and not how you can mess it up. or you know what I mean? It's the same thing in a fine art gallery. You can't touch the work. There's a reason for that. It's not an interactive experience. You're experiencing what was created, and you don't want to ruin it. It's a moment in time, and I think in VR, it's cool because you can't touch it. But because of the nature of VR, it's digital. So technically, you could put your whole head into the art piece without ruining it. So it becomes a different level of interaction. If you wanted to, go inside of an art piece and experience the inside of it, that's just another layer that could be cool. And that's just a different way of interacting without touching. So, yeah.
I don't even being mind blown about all the possibilities. What was There was that one line that like kept being used. It's a limitless platform for creativity, literally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only can you create using anything, then I can talk to Justin later and be like, how do we do this? And he'll do literally anything to what me or the other artists make. You know what I mean? Like you, literally anything could be made. And you can put somebody literally anywhere.
Yeah.
I think that's the most mind-blowing part for me. That's the funnest part.
Yeah.
We're in the generation that we could do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few other moments that I can remember actually too. During our first show, there's like one of the VR pieces that's literally puts you in space. It puts you floating in space. And the first few people that got to experience it, their reactions were really interesting. Some of them just dropped to the floor and they're like, oh my God, I'm floating in space. And they just got really emotional. And then I think the fourth person that got to see it was laying on the floor, extremely emotional. I think she cried, if I remember correctly. But she's like laying on the floor, like just head looking around like, oh my God, I've always wanted to go to space. And in her mind, she was in space, you know, and there's just something about that. You know what I mean? Whenever somebody creates an installation or a room that makes you feel like you're somewhere else and you're escaping just, you know, with physical things, like VR is like the extension of that. It's actually making you physically feel like you're elsewhere. I think our first show was extremely surreal in many ways. Yeah, I mean, obviously the ability to paint in thin air comes off as surreal in VR. But I think where we're going next is going to dive into things that are hyper realistic, almost like artwork that looks so real, it must be. You know what I mean? Artworks that's so real, but at the same time, so impossible. You know what I mean? Like art pieces that are just so borderlining hyper realistic, but just impossible. Something you never thought you'd see in real life type of experiences. I think that's where we're going next, you know? So you feel, I think the hyper realism makes you feel like you're there even more. You're physically there, you're seeing the shadows of everything and the lighting is just so flawless. I think that brings that realism to the table, but at the same time, you're like, this is magnificent because this is an impossible art piece, but here I am standing in front of it. And you feel like you're in front of it. I think that's the power of where we're going next. Mm-hmm. You know, that hyper realism. I don't think people come up to us with ideas.
Yeah.
I think it's more of like,
yeah,
they experience it and then ideas come out. You know what I mean? Like we show them like what they can do and then they're like, oh my God, wait. Can we do this? Can we do that? How about this? Because we've opened their mind up. I think it's been more of that, you know? Every artist has some wild concept that my challenge as a programmer, as a designer and a developer, to bring stuff like that to life. And that's my challenge and that's what I love, you know, the impossible.
Making it possible.
Making the impossible possible.
Yeah. You never know if we're in the process of doing that.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's certain artists we want to work with. Yeah. I think those are our great white whales. I think there's certain artists we want to work with, and once we're able to collaborate with them and bring that artwork to life, I think that, yeah. I don't want to name them because I feel like it's gonna, you know, I don't want to jinx it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think projects that are in the works, I'm really excited about. I think that's something that, I mean, they don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say it, but that's what I think is going to be like a big.
Yeah, they'll see.
Like,
they'll see.
Stay tuned.
They'll see.
It's going to be a stay tuned type of,
I know.
type of thing.
We got some trips to take you on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, part of the process is allowing the artist to create, and it keeps evolving as they create.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we never really have solid dates until the piece is complete.
There's a few we want to simultaneously feed the public
Yeah.
at the same, and in a few different ways. So we're expanding the possible ways of exhibiting it too.
Agreed.
Whether it's an opening event or having it be for a little while. Yeah. Follow us on the gram, theparallel.nyc,
Yeah.
for all the updates.
And your personal.
Keli Lucas.
And I am at Become, which is bec.ome. That's me.
This Mama. KELILUCAS.
Appreciate you guys' time today. It was really great meeting you guys.
Been great.
Very excited what you guys are doing. I really can't wait to see what the rest is coming up. Because
Oh, yeah.
It's coming up. So I'm very excited to see all that.
I'm so
yeah.
happy you came by. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, he's coming by to
Yeah.
check it out.
Yes! Buckle up!
Excited.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts. All right, thank you.
Thank you,